of course, spent the first half of last season on a two-way here in Philly. Played just 2 games, though. Spent most of his time down in Delaware with the Bluecoats, says Embiid.
Joel Embiid once stood at the top of the basketball world. An unstoppable force, a modern big man with skills that defied logic, and the centerpiece of a franchise that lived by the mantra, trust the process. At his peak, he was more than dominant, he was historic. Averaging over 33 points per game, snatching rebounds with ease, and swatting shots like a wall at the rim, he made defenses collapse every time he touched the ball. In 2023, he claimed the NBA's Most Valuable Player award, and it felt like the ultimate fulfillment of what the league had been waiting for, a towering giant who could score from anywhere, defend anyone, and command the game on both ends of the floor. But just as the story seemed set for greatness, the cracks began to show. The problem was never about skill or effort. It was about something far more fragile, his knees. For years, Embiid had carried the reputation of a star with injury concerns, but he always found a way back. Fans grew used to holding their breath whenever he landed awkwardly, but they also believed he was resilient enough to fight through anything. That belief was tested in February 2024, when Embiid underwent surgery on his left knee to repair a meniscus tear. At first, it was brushed off as another temporary setback, nothing unusual for a player who had already endured years of physical battles. But when he returned to the court, something had changed. The explosiveness that once terrified defenders wasn't there in the same way. His footwork was slower, his drives less forceful, and his movements more cautious. He could still score, still rebound, still alter shots, but the aura of dominance seemed dulled. Each possession looked more deliberate, as if his mind was balancing the risk of pushing his body against the fear of breaking down again. And the swelling didn't stop. Every time he ramped up, the knee fought back. The 2024-25 season turned into a nightmare. His production dropped noticeably, his FECN.
Court advantage here. How strange was it for you the past 2 games with the significant amount of Knicks fans in the house?
Disappointing. I love our fans. Think it's unfortunate, and I'm not calling them out, but it is disappointing.
The reality is brutal. The meniscus isn't just another piece of the body. It's the shock absorber of the knee, the cushion that absorbs every sprint, every jump, every collision. When it tears or wears down, it doesn't regenerate. For most people, that means pain and limited activity. For a 7-foot, 280-pound basketball player whose entire game relies on impact and agility, it means something much darker. Without that cushion, every movement becomes bone grinding against bone, leading to swelling, stiffness, and eventually arthritis. And arthritis doesn't go away, it only worsens with time. That's the nightmare Embiid now faces. Doctors have warned that there isn't a single, permanent fix. Procedures exist, cleanup surgeries, meniscus transplants, cartilage restoration, but each one comes with long recovery times and no guarantees. Even if he returns, flare-ups could keep coming back, forcing him in and out of the lineup. Without rhythm, without consistency, it becomes nearly impossible to play at an MVP level. For a player who built his reputation on durability within games, not just stats, that spells danger. The risks go further than just his knee. A compromised joint forces the body to compensate. Protecting the knee might stress the hips, the back, or even the other leg, creating a chain of injuries that accelerates decline. And then there is the question of explosiveness. Embiid's dominance came not only from size and skill, but from the sudden power in his first step, the force of his drop step, the ability to rise over anyone in the paint. Without that explosiveness, defenders no longer collapse with fear. They stay home, force him into jumpers, and chip away at the intimidation factor that once made him unstoppable. History offers chilling reminders. Yao Ming, Greg Oden, Bill Walton, all giants whose knees betrayed them long before their talent ran dry. Each of them had the skills, the height, the dominance, but the body couldn't carry the weight. Embiid now stands on that same dangerous edge, with fans and analysts whispering whether his MVP season might have been the peak he will never touch again. At 31 years old, he is not ancient by NBA standards, But for a big man with years of wear and tear, time is not on his side. The worst-case scenario is clear. The knee never truly recovers, the flare-ups continue, and Embiid is reduced to a part-time player. He spends more nights in street clothes than on the floor, and when he does play, he's a shadow of the giant who once defined dominance. The championship that Philadelphia has waited decades for slips further away, and Embiid's legacy becomes a cautionary tale, a generational talent whose body simply couldn't endure. But this is not yet the end. Embiid has reinvented himself before. He missed the first 2 seasons of his NBA career and still rose to MVP status. He added a reliable jump shot to his arsenal, expanded his game beyond the paint, and learned how to dominate with finesse as much as force. Perhaps the future demands another reinvention. Instead of relying on sheer explosiveness, he may need to lean more on shooting, footwork, and craft, the skills that age better than power. With strict load management, reduced minutes, and careful preservation, Embiid could still be the cornerstone of a contender, even if he's no longer the 35-point-a-night monster of old. Yet the shadow of uncertainty looms. Every comeback carries the risk of another setback. Every game could be the start of a return or a reminder of decline. Fans don't just wonder if Embiid can dominate again, they wonder if his body will allow him to survive long enough to chase the glory he has dreamed of. That's the cruel reality of his story now. Joel Embiid is no longer just battling defenders. He is battling time, pain, and the unforgiving truth of human anatomy. His future rests on knees that have already carried more than their fair share of weight. If they hold, the story continues, perhaps with a reinvention that prolongs his greatness. If they don't, his career could end not with a final triumph, but with the haunting silence of what might have been, and that's what makes his story so gripping. Every step, every jump, every return to the floor feels like part of a bigger fight, not just for wins, not just for championships, but for the survival of his career. Joel Embiid's journey is still unfolding, but one thing is certain, the battle ahead will be the hardest he has ever faced.
For this thing. And he was a late first-round pick a year ago out of VCU. Done an excellent job with the drafting and the first. And the dunk by Jeff Green.
When you have matchups here in this game,
Embiid will be an all-star as well. Perhaps James Harden and also Aaron Gordon for Denver remains to be seen. Embiid.
oh yeah, clear out.